Thank you, Linda. I think I need to express my big thanks to Mr. Bodisi. He raised a big awareness for you how serious pressure ulcer is. And I want to add information to his presentation about the use of support services for pressure ulcer prevention. And the key message for pressure ulcer management is do not harm and pressure relief, I think. And I have done this work many years, 2 years ago, and published this in +1. I show you this paper here because this is free to download, and you can have it when you go home. I want to say I have no conflict or interest in relation to this presentation, and I want to give my big thanks to my supervisors, Nikki Callum and Jill Dunwell, and also I want to express my thanks to Professor Jan Nixon. She is a very senior investigator, support my study, and even I'm not her student, and she is very keen to support the group of young researchers like me. And I don't need to say anything about pressure ulcer. You know how serious it is, and I just want to give, by definition, the pressure ulcer is a localized damage to the skin and underlying tissue caused by pressure and shear force. And mainly in practice, we use support services to relieve pressure for pressure ulcer prevention. But the reality is there are many support service options, and there are a large variations between each two or many support services in terms of 4 key elements. The first is how a surface works to relieve pressure. One kind of support surfaces will relieve pressure through in a maximum way to increase the contact area between the body and the bed mattress you lie on. We call it a reactive model. And another one is to reduce the duration of pressure applied. A good example is alternating pressure air mattress. When a patient lies on that kind of mattress, the air cells on the skin will change by time. This time, some air cells will support the body in this area, and next time, some cell will go down, and another part of cell will go up to support another part of skin and body. So in this way, it will alternatively change the contact area between skin and the surface. We call it active model. And the last types of support services is a hybrid one. It's a combination of reactive and active models. And we also can consider the difference between support services in terms of what material is used to mat a surface. A support service could be made of foam, gel, sheepskin, air cells, or even water bags, etc. And the third element we could use to classify support services is whether a surface requires electricity to power its function. If electricity is required, we call it a powered surface. And there are many other features we can use to describe a support surface. For example, low air loss. Low air loss is there are some tiny holes on the surface, and when the patient lie to the surface, there are some small air will come out through the tiny hole. In this way, the skin will be dried and the moisture can be managed. I think some of you may not familiar with these concepts. They are used in science. And in practice, you might be more familiar with high specification form surfaces. If we use the elements to define the high specification form matrix, we can say it is the non-powered reactive form matrix. Obviously, there are large diversity of supersurface options. For example, non-powered reactive form, powered active air surfaces. So what does this mean? The diversity of surface options mean nothing for me. I think only challenges to put challenges for you in decision making. And currently, we have many strong national policies in terms of pressure ulcer management. We have now reactive to red skin program, which suggests a simple form tool which can help us to use in practice to aware some key issues. The first question these two ask, is the surface fit for the purpose of my patient? This question is really hard to be answered. Actually, in the case, you don't have any evidence about the relative effects of each two supersurfaces for pressure ulcer prevention. And we also have the National Wound Care Strategy Program, which was introduced a lot by Una yesterday. And they want to develop national evidence-based recommendations to reduce the unwarranted variations and to improve patients' experience and outcome. However, facing the diversity of surface options, how could we reduce the variation? How do we know which supersurface should be implemented from our practice, should be demarcated? With this background, there will be two direct questions we may have in our mind. The first is, what are the relative effects of each two supersurfaces for pressure ulcer prevention? And the second is, which supersurface is the most effective one among all options? Some of you may be familiar with this Cochrane review, which was published in 2015. And in this review, the authors offer two key information. The first is form alternatives, which is a high specification form matrix. Alternatives to standard form matrix can reduce pressure ulcer incidence. But another message is the relative effects between supersurfaces is still unclear. So for the uncertainty, I did a mind study to add evidence to the review. There are some, this review actually used the pairwise meta-analysis method to pull data from for trials directly compared, for example, supersurface A and supersurface B for pressure ulcer prevention. Evidence from it, we call it direct evidence. And in decision making, we're facing many options on the table, and sometimes we have, for example, we have three supersurfaces here, and we have a trial for AC comparison, and also have a trial for BC comparison. But in some cases, we don't have a trial for AB comparison. In this case, if we only rely on pairwise meta-analysis, we cannot have evidence for AB comparison. The good news now is we have the advanced meta-analysis technique. We call it a network meta-analysis. Using this technique, we can use the surface C as the common comparator to produce evidence for A-B comparison. We call it indirect evidence. And if we have direct evidence and indirect evidence at the same time, we can combine them together to improve the precision of our estimation. And also, with the network analysis, we can link results from these analysis to a modeling and to analyze which surface has the best, the highest probability being the best one, which have the probability being the second best one, and which is the worst one in pressure ulcer prevention. We can calculate a secret for each surface to do this. In this way, we can rank all options. So in my study, I included 65 cities, including 14,000 patients, and half of them are women, and most of them are adults and old adults. They are from various settings. That means evidence from this study can be used in many settings. From my included study, I identified 14 interventions, support services, like you can see in this figure. Ideally, if we have RCT data to feed each two support services to link them together, we can have a network like this. We can produce evidence for 91 contracts. However, the reality is horrible. We only have data for 24 links. And the network obviously is quite sparse. And more importantly, most of data are low quality. Here you can see there are some links I labeled with green color. That means the data fed there is at a high quality. When you see the green, the yellow and the red color means data for the corresponding links are low quality. But I mentioned before, with the network analysis, we can produce indirect evidence. So even the network is very sparse, we can also have results for all 91 contracts. I summarized all 91 contract results in this league table. And from that top to this bottom, there are this one. There are 14 cells for 14 interventions. And from the top to the bottom, there are 91 cells for 91 contracts. Each cell will have the relative effects. I expressed them using a risk ratio and confidence interval. And I don't think I have enough time to introduce each of them to you. I want to pick some more important for you. The first, I want to pick this one, the non-powered reactive form surface. I selected this because this is widely recommended in practice, and this is recommended by national guidelines. And also the current Cochrane review mentioned the form alternative to standard option is effective. But from this table, you will see this cell has red color. That means the evidence for the high specification form is very low certainty. We cannot believe it. And another two cells are powered hybrid air and powered active air services. Compared to standard ones, they are effective and they have green color in their cells, means their quality of evidence can be believed. So how could we understand their relative effects? We do science and we have direct sense in understanding the statistics, but in simple words, we would like to interpret the statistics to you in simple language. If we can assume 219 people using standard hospital surface will develop pressure ulcer in future per 1,000. If we use powered hybrid and powered active air surface, their results will correspond to 48 and 92 patients developing pressure ulcer. So we can see the reduction in pressure ulcer incidence is very huge. And also, I said before, the evidence for the reduction can be believed. I mentioned before we can rank all options in a single analysis to show which one is the best. And from this figure, you can see the hybrid low air loss surface is has the highest probability of being the best one. However, I want to make you disappointed because the evidence for all of them are very low certainty, means I cannot tell you now. I can believe it. Sorry. And in summary, I want to tell you very, very simple key messages here. That is, the first is we cannot believe at this moment. Okay, sorry. The first is we can believe hybrid and active air surfaces compared with standard option can reduce pressure ulcer incidence. However, we cannot believe the reactive air form surface is effective than standard one based on the current data. And we cannot believe which one is the best in pressure ulcer prevention. And we need more high quality data to feed the network. And when we go home and go to our clinics, we want to use evidence in practice for tissue viability analysis when we face a patient in future, and we want to use the reactive to air tool to aware the first question. When we say that, I hope my presentation will help you to make a decision which is better than another. And also, to make the national recommendation, and we want to reduce some of options from market. But based on the current data evidence, we don't think we can have strong statement to de-implement some of them. I want to remind you that we have the effectiveness evidence for osteoporosis services. However, we also need to consider cost and cost-effective evidence to make more appropriate decision. Thank you. I think this is more my presentation. Thank you.